Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning, featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are, as always, talking wrestling today. We are live on both YouTube and TikTok, and there are plenty of headlines to jump into. So fill the chat, hit that like, let's go over what we're talking about today. We will, of course, be talking Backlash, just been and gone. We'll be talking the latest information there, what's happened, and what the response has been. We're going to talk Bloodline Civil War Part 2. We are talking Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa, starting over Jeff Cobb. They're fighting over him like it's the last piece of toffee. Randy Orton, what plans are for him next, which seem to go straight through our truth. We're then talking the push for Bron Breaker. We have Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria, not ending anytime soon, and plenty of good moments still to come on it. We're going to talk a little bit about the reporting from wrestling media about what the plans were for Backlash, that those plans changed, and the wrestling media are now closing ranks around the fact that apparently plans changed. We're then going to share about, the fact that plans didn't all change. Goldberg did not travel to Backlash, got a little bit on that. Alexa Bliss's future as well. I spoke about it on Friday, but I have more details now as to what the intentions are. We're going to talk Pat McAfee's next steps, and we are going to answer what has become a major question lately. Will CM Punk turn up in Saudi Arabia? Something he swore he would never do. Never do. While he was away from the WWE. So, interesting. Eager to see what's happening there, and eager to explain what's going on. Before we get to our first piece of news, please be aware of a couple of things. Firstly, it went really well during Backlash, so I'm bringing it back. We now have a donation goal. Nobody needs to donate, just to be clear. I'm grateful for anyone who does, but it is not a requirement. You can enjoy all the news I have for free, but I do have a donation goal to remind people of my intentions there. If there is, for example, a donation of $3 or £3, I will do free squats. For every dollar, every pound, we do a squat. I did quite a few during Backlash. My knees did not thank me, and as such, I thank you, because it's going to force me to get fitter. Our first piece of news is about Jacob Fatu, Jeff Cobb, and of course Solo Sikoa. Massive thank you to everyone who is boosting the chat rate by dropping chat rate into the chat. We have 77 people on the YouTube, 23 likes so far. Let's keep those coming as well. So, we are talking Bloodline Civil War Part 2 because we knew Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa was coming, but the way it's playing out is coming off very differently. Jacob Fatu will need to go searching for some recruits. Solo Sikoa has recruited an additional name, this being Jeff Cobb, until recently worked for New Japan. He's now working in the WWE the same way Bronson Reed made that change during his days of being Jonah. This is a hire from Solo Sikoa. This is not a hire from Jacob Fatu, who is not at all happy with the fact that someone has been hired over him. The storyline plans are very simple. This is the beginning of Jacob Fatu's takeover as head of the family. We will see Tama Tonga return. He will have to pick a side. We'll see Tonga Loa return. He will have to pick a side. And when all of that has happened, that's when Jacob Fatu is going to bring himself some new recruits, get stuck in, and take over. The big plan for Jacob Fatu this year is to demolish Solo Sikoa. Absolutely demolish him. En route to a feud with Roman Reigns that will result in the Bloodline name going to Jacob Fatu. That suggests to me that we're going to see one more tribal combat and Roman Reigns is going to lose to Jacob Fatu. We will see the reshuffle of the Bloodline as we go, but I'm very interested to see what we manage with Jacob Fatu. There's a lot of very good options there that I believe will be really exciting to see. Keep it coming in the chat. Let me know your questions. Let me know what you think about that, and I will continue to answer as best I can, just starting on the TikTok side. Aaron Lewis says, just been announced Braun Strowman is getting a new WWE show. Interesting, especially when you consider he's not got a contract. Everton, what's your source for that? What's your source? Because I've heard about an Evolution paid feud till I'm blue in the face, and it still hasn't happened. Everton also says, Becky Lynch says MJF would lose a promo battle against her. She's a heel, of course she's going to say that. Where was I? Plenty of people saying hi. Welcome, everyone. Calvin says, did you know Jeff Cobb is not Samoan? Yeah. Am I the only one that noticed him grab LA Knight's butt when he threw him in the ring? That's pretty normal in wrestling. There's lots of butt grabbing. Lots of it. Noob says, hello, Mr. Colohue. How are you doing today? Welcome, Noob. Good to see you. Thank you, Declan, for that constant chat rate. Jacob, the face bloodline? Not sure on that one. I do think what's going on with Jacob Fatu is that he's over. So they're not going to push face or heel. They're just going to get the guy over. Rickan says, so Jacob will be heel and Solo turning face? No, as I say, I don't think that has to happen at all. Roy says, I think WWE will have to turn Jacob Fatu babyface because the fans keep cheering him. I actually think in current WWE, they don't have to do that. They can do that if they so choose, but they don't have to. They're not forced to anymore. Drew McIntyre, if he, for example, ended up being cheered, they'll still book him as a heel. Just fans won't care. Going well, thank you, Sean. Always appreciate that check-in. Eric, doing well, thank you. Welcome to the show. Pete says, I would go over to TikTok, but I'm at home. Evening all. Wherever you're watching, I appreciate you for watching. Joey says, will Jeff Cobb be wrestling a lot or will he be used in the enforcer role? He will be wrestling quite a lot. It does look like Jeff Cobb is going to be featured going forward, at least as a spoiler against Drew McIntyre, until the Drew McIntyre versus Jacob Fatu feud can start properly. Declan says, I'm still manifesting Becky winning the briefcase this year. Danny says, is the Charlotte feud with Alexa Bliss connected to Wire 6 stuff? Who said it's a feud? Hey Dax, good to see you. Welcome to the show. KJ says, hey Tom, welcome KJ. Sean says, I saw a picture of Jacob and Naomi. Think she's going to be in his bloodline? No. Calvin says, will Braun's show be on YouTube and similar to The Bump? I wonder what happened to The Bump. According to Aaron, it's a cooking show. Everton says, John Cena's final match in December this year has officially been announced for Boston, Massachusetts. Ed, you might enjoy that then. Cecil says, I really enjoyed Backlash, but 4 of the 5 matches were not clean finishes. I hate that. I do feel like the Triple H honeymoon period might well be over. Rickan says, when Jacob demolishes Solo, do you think Jeff Cobb joins Jacob or stays with Solo? I think he stays with Solo, but I don't know if I can guarantee that. Marcel says, I'll watch back later. Welcome, Marcel. Whatever works for you, I appreciate you dropping in. 93 people watching now. Let's get those thumbs ups going because we've got plenty more news to share. Fair enough, mate, Ed. You have a good time. I'll see you soon. No cherry coke today, Declan. I know it's basically patron saint of the stream. Today, just the regular stuff. Oh, Chris, gotcha. I'd watch that. I'd probably watch that. Next up, what's next for Randy Orton? There is not a current plan to be another Randy Orton versus John Cena match. John Cena is apparently keeping it to 1 or 2 matches at most for his remaining opponents, and there are not that many of them left. So it will not be Randy Orton versus John Cena again. It looks instead like it might well be Randy Orton versus R-Truth, because while there are rumours of John Cena versus R-Truth, I think Randy Orton might be a little more pissed off a little faster. John Cena at the moment still seems to be largely entertaining R-Truth, and I'm not sure, I know there are rumours that that's going to be the feud, but we're 2 weeks away from a show. I don't even know if Cena's going to be there for those 2 weeks, so it's hard to say. For me, I'd definitely go Randy Orton. Seems to make the most sense to me. We've been given a gift, the first gift from Andrew Dugan. Thank you very much, Andrew. I appreciate you. And, as promised, while it's not quite to the same numbers, that... pardon me for the foreshirt. Is 1 squat. So, nice and simple. 1. And we will be continuing to do that because why not? Why not? Next up, then, another piece of news. We're going to go straight into the Bron Breaker push. Pardon me. And firstly, I want to know what you guys are more excited for. Let me know in the chat. Would you rather see Bron Breaker versus Roman or Bron Breaker versus Punk? Both of these are going to happen. And can I just say, Bron Breaker is about to get the push of his life. So before I get into all of that, would you rather see Bron Breaker versus Roman or Bron Breaker versus Punk? Bella says, what is your opinion on Roxanne and Julia versus Liv and Raquel feud rumor? I think it'd be a good one. I think they're establishing a new tag team on Raw, and they need them because there's not that many tag teams left to go against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. So I think it's a very clear rumor, a very simple rumor, and would result in some pretty good matches. Oh, of course, Dax, absolutely. Hope you're good, mate. Hope you're good. So you take that shout out to... and yeah, if you were close, it's always horrible to see stuff like that. Calvin says, I kind of agree with Pete on the post-show. Truth obviously picked a bad time to come into the press conference to congratulate John. Still, the attack was uncalled for. Sean says, fans are speculating that Asuka and Kairi are returning tonight to save Io from a beatdown by Julia and Roxanne. I mean, you say that, but there's a Rhea Ripley right there. As regards press conference and R-Truth, it's just a very weird element to be in. By and large, they've been friends. It's awkward. Would you fight your hero? I mean, it took, what, Rey Mysterio a year? Clearly not the hero if it takes that short a time. Rick says, would love if WWE signs Zilla and joins Jacob. Liam says, I now vote for R-Truth to win Money in the Bank and eventually challenge Cena for the title. He can't assault the man who calls Big Match John his childhood hero and get away with it. Dax says also, watch the pig. Paul says, I bought VHS ECW tapes from some kid named Joe in school and saw Sabu wrestle for the first time. Calvin says, Bron versus Roman. Chris would rather see Punk versus Bron and it's Roman. Ashley would rather Breaker versus Punk. Joey says, when do you think we'll see Punk and Roman team up against Seth and Bron? Relatively soon. I think that'll probably be around the SummerSlam match. That'd just be a great way to get them all involved without overdoing it. Dax prefers Bron versus Roman. We've got no Bron versus Roman from Bailey. Brad says Punk. Kevin suggests Paul Heyman. Valencia says Bron versus Punk makes the most sense currently, I feel, but excited for both matches. Cecil says Roman versus Bron as well. So it's quite even, but does lean more towards Roman, it seems. Spear versus Spear. Sean says, do you think Alexa sticks around this time? I'd like to see her dethrone Zelina. Yeah, we have a bit more on Alexa Bliss to come. Anthony Phillips says, will Mariah May sign with the WWE? That's entirely up to her. At this point in time, all I know is that she's got some good options if she wants to take them up on it. Juan would prefer Roman versus Breaker. Bailey says, where do you see the Alexa and Charlotte conversation going? That's incoming, guys. That's incoming. Dax says he's still a Wyatt 6 fan. Still believe in the Wyatt story. I just think it's disappointing that we've never really got it. Paul says Backlash was a predictable PLE apart from the Becky match. I don't disagree. Calvin has given his predictions for the men's Money in the Bank that it will feature Bron, Theory, Waller, Truth, Damien, Drew, Jacob and Knight. Chet says Seth versus Roman, there's more history, it just makes sense. That's not the question I asked though. We are regarding Bron Breaker, who's getting the big push. KJ says I'm excited for both, but I prefer Roman versus Bron. I believe Bron will actually break Punk in half. He'd have to slow down his spear. Punk is a bit old and fragile. Bad says I'm really too much excited for watching Alexa and Charlotte working together. Sean says Priscilla Kelly and Elena Black have already announced their post-WWE appearances. King Azza says, do you see WWE booking Cena versus Punk at Money in the Bank? No, for me that's too soon. I get what you're saying, but I don't necessarily think that's going to be the right move going forwards. It would certainly bring up a lot of history, but there is already storylines going on. Mind of Gallon. The only news I've had I've already shared, unfortunately. I don't have any additional information to share for it. I know they're continually pitching storylines. I know they're continually filming vignettes. They just haven't appeared as of yet. KJ says, I hope WWE doesn't drag Alexa, who's very over, down to save Charlotte. Not the plan. Everton says Punk versus Breaker. And Aaron said, do you see Triple H hiring the Righteous? It wouldn't be him hiring them. There is certainly a lot of rumours around them. Angel Lucia says, Tom, do you think Randy stays on SmackDown with Cody? I don't think they want Cody, Randy, Roman and Punk on the same brand. I mean, if you can share that out, you absolutely should. Anthony says, thank you, love your YouTube channel and God bless you. And you too, Anthony. Appreciate you. Cal says, hey Tom, mate, sorry I'm late. I have the neuroviruses flying around. Sorry to hear that, man. Hope you're okay. Sean says Cena versus Punk for SummerSlam. I lean more in that direction myself as well. A Man of Gun says, thanks, Tom. Cal says, I hope Drew McIntyre is okay after Saturday. Yeah, I hope so. Seems like he took a bit of a hit on the head. We picked it up on the watch party. Thank you, Eric, for sourcing. Says PWInsider have reported that July 12th will be Evolution 2. Is that not what was already reported? But they were supposed to have already announced it. Roy said, do you see any main roster wrestlers working in TNA? Mentioned this a couple of times. AJ Styles is right there. Craig says, isn't the draft coming up soon? Yes, the plan was after WrestleMania, but it looks like there's a few moving parts they haven't quite sorted out yet. Primarily releases and the like. Cal says, as always, hope you and the family are okay. We're doing fine compared to norovirus, mate. The other Mike says, what's Cody's first feud when he gets back? Cena again. Ole says, hello, Tom, and hello, everyone in the chat. How's everyone doing today? Welcome, Ole. Good to see you. Dropped in for your review and just lurked in the background while Ed was playing. Irish says, my guy, Tom. Welcome, Irish. And Dax is also asking for updates on the Wyatt 6. At the moment, I have no updates on the Wyatt 6 beyond what I will be sharing about Alexa Bliss. Welcome, Metal Mama. Thank you very much for the heart. I appreciate it. What I did say earlier, just to repeat, any donation equal to or above $1, £1 will result in a squat. That's just a little thing I do to say thank you, and also because it forces me to get fitter. So any donation, YouTube or TikTok, a gift or $1 or £1 or more, for example, if you give 10, that'll be 10 squats, will result in a squat. You're just giving 2 gifts, so guess what you're getting? You're getting 2 squats. Nearly rolled over my crisps, you're getting 2 squats. So 2 more. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll step back a little bit, move my chair a little further away, and here we go for 2. Nice and easy. And by the end of it, my knees will be in immense pain. Or not. You never can tell. Sometimes, not quite. It's really up to you guys. Do you want to cause me physical agony? If so, don't be throwing a lot of it. But also, like, if you want to, go ahead. Aaron said, do you think it could be hard to get Jeff Cobb over when nobody really knows who he is? They have that challenge with every single wrestler, and somehow, with the vast majority of them, they manage to at least slightly succeed. Sean says, who do you think will be Cena's final opponent? I think it'll be someone relatively new. So personally, I would be going with someone like Jacob Fatu. That's what I want. Everton says, Solo Tamatonga, Tonga Loa, Jeff Cobb versus Jacob Zilla Ikulio, and I'd imagine that's supposed to say Jacob Fatu. Metal Mama is on a mission. On a mission. That is a lot of donations. So let's see, because, you know, I made a promise and I'm going to keep it. Move that, roll that out the way. And you may need to keep count for me, guys. Let's see how we do here. I did go in the wrong direction in the end. So, 2 tofus. Roll back that way. 2 tofus. We will get to the news, I promise. I'm not going anywhere. Tofu, 1 and 2. 2 morning blooms. 1. I'm doing the arm thing because I played a lot of Final Fantasy. I do apologise. 2. White roses. There's 2 of them. Let's do 2 more. 1 and 2. See, I'm not struggling. The reason I'm not struggling is because we did so many during Backlash. Popular. Nope, not that one. Tiny Mike, just the 1. And I appreciate you, Metal Man, for contributing to my health. 1 more. And there's a squat. And then there's 4 popular votes. 4. You know what happens as a result of gifts on TikTok? They increase your ranking, so you go to higher ranks. And also more people find you. 4 popular votes. Let's do 4. There's a 1. And there's a 2. And there's a 3. And there's a 4. Jobs are good. And also, yep, indeed, my knees are starting to go. Guys, I'm old. But hey, it all works out. It all works out. We end up having a great show. And everybody's enjoying it. It's not a punishment, SNH. It's just something I do when people donate. Why the hell not? Why the hell not? Goes back to the old Twitch days when we were big on Twitch. I say big on Twitch. We weren't big on Twitch. Twitch was big on us. Cal says, when do you think Money in the Bank qualifiers will start? It's next month and there's been 0 build. Tonight. We'll get plenty of attention on Money in the Bank going forwards, but they had to wait until Backlash was firmly out of the way. KJ says, about the Evolution story, PWInsider's report on the date and location are both different than what WrestleVotes reported. I don't know the dates or locations. Sorry, but today's report from PWInsider is different than WrestleVotes. Thank you, KJ. That's exactly what I was looking for. I appreciate you for that. Ashley says, is Natalya's appearance in NWA a one-off, or will WWE be working with NWA more in the future? Pardon me. No guarantees. So I cannot really answer that question at this point in time. There's a lot of negotiations still ongoing about who to use and when. But we do have at the moment 117 people on YouTube and only the 42 likes. Can we get that up to 50? Have a check for me. Just if you haven't hit like, have a quick check for me. I'd appreciate it. I mean, you can if you want, Dax. It's an option available to you, but you don't have to. Nobody is required to make any donations. I appreciate every donation that's made. King Azza says, I think Cena's last match should be against Roman. I think that torch is thoroughly being passed. Sid says, Travis Scott and John Cena are rumoured to be teaming together in a tag match. This makes lots of sense. Cody says a beatdown after Saturday night main event of Cena versus Truth leads to it. I feel like that's kind of a waste of a John Cena match. Sean says, Tom repping that 4 shirt. Love and Thunder was an okay movie. Ragnarok was where it's at. I think we can all agree on that. WrestleBuzz says, on top of PWInsider saying July 12th for Evolution, there's also a screenshot floating around of Fanatics hiring personnel for WWE Evolution, but with no date listed. Appreciate that, WrestleBuzz. There's a little more on it. Everton says, if I was to donate £500 on YouTube, would you do 500 squats? I would try to. You would definitely get the full 500 squats on stream. I can't guarantee it'd be this stream, but you would definitely get the full 500 squats. I promise you that. Even if I had to make you a personal video of me doing 500 squats over the course of a couple of days, you would get it. We don't mess around here. Marcel has something similar. SNH says, does R-Truth dethrone Cena? No. Metal Mama says, I'm still on Twitch, probably the platform I use most actually still. I was very, very key on it for a while, until eventually we got to a point where the YouTube was growing quickly and the Twitch was not growing at all. Sid says, I'm not seeing enough people talking about what Cena said to the press about being better than them before R-Truth came in and shook him up. Kevin says, this I think is a good idea. Talent from outside skip NXT to only go to the main roster. Also says, let's go, Tom, get some muscle. Dylan says, DCJ having a tag match or title match at Money in the Bank? Yes, I do. I think it's his turn. And that's one of the reasons I think Cena will not be featured in it. Steve says, is it Romania where you can pay for your train ticket with 20 squats? I've never heard of that, but if so, I might go wandering. I can do 20 squats, I think. Ryan says, hey Tom, how's everything going? Going well, thank you, Ryan. Welcome to the show. Also, can I just say, you guys just hit 12 likes in about 20 seconds. Y'all are amazing. Calvin says, pitch Julia and Roxanne attack Rhea and Io after the match. Kevin says, my bad, do you think it's a good idea, talent from outside, skip NXT? I think it depends on the talent. I think some talent definitely should, some talent definitely shouldn't. Daz says, big up Tom, who's next for Jey Uso? Logan Paul. Logan Paul is coming in a couple of weeks. And yeah, it's going to be confusing. It's going to be confusing because it should be, again, as always with Logan Paul, a really good match. And I just don't want to root for the guy. Don't want to. Don't want to. Paul says, will we ever get spoiler warning merchandise? It's something I've been working towards. I just don't necessarily think I'm big enough to warrant it. But yeah, we were looking at black t-shirts with the spoiler warning logo, like that one. That one, just across it. And if people wanted them, absolutely you could. Looking to make things work. Looking to make things work. KJ says, hey Tom, hope you don't mind me saying this, but I actively train. We can't really see your squat, but make sure you keep your lower back straight like you're in a chair. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure you see enough without necessarily seeing like two. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I'm trying to make sure my back is straight. I appreciate you for it. Dax suggests Cross for Money in the Bank. Sid says, when Nia Jax wants to work, Nia will work. That was pretty good with Jade Cargill. Kevin says, your thoughts about John Cena's heel turn so far? I think whoever eventually dethrones him is going to get one hell of a big moment from it. And I think they're going to get a hell of a cheer Thank you, Cecil. Appreciate it. KJ says, having your back tilted or bent will affect you longer term. Ruined mine years ago due to incorrect posture, but it's getting better. No, I'm pretty well versed when it comes to that, but I appreciate the heads up. Everton says, don't know who the IWC want to win between Jay and Logan. Probably Jay. And Everton also says merch is needed. Calvin says, Waller claims he gave his match last week to Theory to give him an opportunity, but is there a chance that Theory is finally seeing what everyone sees? It might be. They have spent a lot of time doing this, and eventually they just need to get it done. Cecil says, and the pig is in clear view. Steve, yes, I can do press-ups. It's just the point that filming myself essentially laying face down on the floor, kind of awkward. So it says Tony Khan is burying the AEW Women's Division for Mercedes Money versus Tony Storm. You've said that before. Dylan says, wait, are you saying Cena is not having a match at Money in the Bank? Cena is not going to be wrestling at every PLE. He only has so many dates. It's just over 20. He's only got so many, and he needs to make them last for basically the rest of the year. Now, 20 is still quite a lot, but not if you're adding in like every Raw SmackDown. There's a lot going on. And around SummerSlam time, guys are going to be on the show a lot. Erin says, sorry I'm late, I'll watch the first half after the stream ends. Hope everyone has a nice night day. Welcome, Erin, good to see you. Yes, Juan, I'm aware of the tactic that he enjoys. There's a reason he can't do it to me. I blocked him. More than 5 years ago now, I blocked him. Never looked back. You'd be amazed how much more you enjoy life when you don't have that sort of toxicity in it. Declan says Becky deserves her flowers for putting Lyra over at Backlash. John says, I saw someone saying John Cena should win Money in the Bank so no one can cash in on him on his way to ruin wrestling. So we have a lot of people who think that it's already past due and it's already not working for John Cena. And others who say stuff like that. Dax says, I feel like Uncle Howdy downgraded the moment he had the straight hair again and not the dreads. He looked so cool, looks cool now, but he looked way cooler with the dreads. Sean says, hopefully we get Cena versus Hendry during this title reign. That is something that the WWE want to make happen. Yes. Fiend says, Jacob Fatu should lose the US title in a multi-man match, then go right after Cena. Put that damn rocket on him. Roy says, do you think we will see Nigel McGuinness tag with Tony Schiavone versus FTR? No. Steve says, is Gunter's war on the press over, or will he continue to battle all of his biased reporting? Is Wade next? No, I suspect Gunter moves on now, and they all get back to work. Michael says, Shotzi is expected to work a number of MLW dates per Fightful Select. Everton says, will there be a Money in the Bank watch-along? Yes, there will. And Metal Mama says, I hate being that person, but why is 6 not being used or is being told anything sucks? It does. They vanished for a long time, and we've had no indication that the WWE even remember that they're there. No indication whatsoever. Quickly then, on the Bron Breaker push, WWE has essentially allowed Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman to work as a duo to put over a number of wrestlers. Now, while Seth Rollins will be wrestling other big names like Roman and like CM Punk continually, the focus now going forwards is on developing new talent, and that means Seth working with new feuds and new opponents, and also means Bron Breaker, who is getting that push to a level of a Brock Lesnar, working with Roman Reigns, working with CM Punk. There is talk of a Roman Reigns match in which it will be spear versus spear, and it will be the highest of focus. And also a tag team match which will see Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker versus Roman Reigns and CM Punk. The story, by and large, will be on the combination of Punk and Roman, but at the same time, the intention is to make sure that Bron Breakker gets the attention. As such, Seth Rollins will ensure that is where the focus is, because Bron Breakker is someone that WWE officials believe could be a WWE champion to the level of a Randy Orton or a Triple H. They believe they found the next Brock Lesnar, and they never have to see Brock Lesnar again. So that's Bron Breakker. Where was I? Fiend says, Tom, before R-Truth interrupted Cena, it seemed like Cena was acting nicer to the press. Is Cena heading towards a turn? No. Paul says, do you think ID wrestler Kylie Ray will make it to the WWE main roster? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I've just not really seen enough of her in the big leagues, as it were. And it seems like, unfortunately, she has a bad record of that. Dylan says, because SummerSlam is 2 nights this year, do you see one of the 2 nights main evented by a tag match between Seth, Braun versus Roman Punk? I wouldn't hate that. I'd really quite enjoy it. Kelly says, hope you're well today, Tom. What's your take on the Alexa Charlotte situation? I do have news on that. I will be getting to it shortly. Dax says, who do you think should dethrone Jay? I think Seth or Bron. I think that's a good shout. Personally, I would go with Bron Breaker dethroning Jay later in this year, at which point Seth can turn on him. And then we get, having beaten Roman, having beaten Punk, Bron as champion beats Seth. What better way to push a guy? What better way? Sean says, do you see this Mello Don't Miz team doing well? I think they're actively doing well. It's making sure that Carmelo Hayes is constantly in focus. And I think as well, it's a good partner to have, The Miz. A very good partner. Calvin says, I've got a feeling Survivor Series might be 2 nights soon. Sean says, which big PLE will be the next to go 2 nights? The only thing I know for certain is that there have been talks about the Royal Rumble going 2 nights for several years. Declan can't wait for the Becky news. Fiend says, I think Seth will take the title from Jay. Everton, we will be talking CM Punk and Saudi Arabia shortly. So, next piece of news. We're flying through some of these, but we're going to have to because there's quite a few. Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria are far from done. The finish wasn't botched, but it was rushed at Backlash. The intention was always for Lyra Valkyria to sneak a win over Becky Lynch. It looks likely that they will both feature in Money in the Bank, though they could also have a separate title match once again, because Becky Lynch will be winning the Intercontinental Championship. She will be winning the Intercontinental Championship from Lyra Valkyria. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. With this in mind, we are still headed towards Lynch versus Bayley at SummerSlam, but Lyra Valkyria will get a lot of attention in the meantime. Becky has made it clear to the WWE. She returned to put over Lyra Valkyria, and she is looking to work with the next generation, rather than, as much as anything else, working with the top names all over again. She's not interested in working with the Charlotte Flairs. She's not interested in working with the Alexa Blisses. She's not interested in working with the Rhea Ripleys. While she will be tagged in and out of that at times, she wants to work with the next generation, which means that we will see more from Lyra Valkyria, we will see Io Sky, and we will see more of people like Roxanne and Julia who are just coming up. There is talk of Becky Lynch versus Stephanie Vaquer for WrestleMania. Talk of. But I think that's a match that would be absolutely fantastic. And Becky Lynch is making sure everyone knows that if you want a big name match with Becky Lynch, all you have to do is ask. I'm aware, Everton, as I say, I will be discussing it a little later. Paul says, if WWE said you could make any match, and what match would you make? Yeah, probably, to be fair, Becky Lynch versus Stephanie Vaquer. It's going to be a Becky Lynch match, let's be fair. Daz, I'm not going to do that, mate. I'm not going to sit here and say my least favourite everything. Anything that is currently my least favourite probably isn't getting much TV time either. So, you know, hopefully they can sort it out. Yes, and it was Lyra's nose that they decided to rush ahead. We're not certain yet what the actual situation was, but Becky Lynch decided, you know what, we'll just wrap it up. We're close enough now. Jamie says hi. Welcome, Jamie. Sean says, do you think Chelsea Green gets a rematch? Yes, eventually. There are other things in her lineup first. Fiend says, Becky Lynch versus Stephanie Vaquer. Give it to me. Mike says, any word on Bianca's injured hand? Yep, it's injured. She's taking some time off because of it. Sean says, it's possible we could get Becky Lynch versus Jordan Grace or Becky versus Zarya? Yes. Sid says, would you like to see... don't know what you're going for there, Sid. King Azza says, I hope we get Seth versus Roman at SummerSlam. I think the tag match personally is more likely, as both men involved in that want to put Bron Breaker over more. Ken says, hey Tom, is the Liv versus Becky feud over, or is there plans to go back to it? At the moment it's over, there are different plans for both women. Everton says Penta takes on Chad Gable, not El Grande Americano, tonight on Raw. Leroy says, do you think Jacob will join Roman? Nope. I think it's going to be something very different between Jacob and Roman. If you can, I don't know if you can rewind on TikTok. I know you can on the YouTube show, so you might need to come across to catch up on that one. But I did talk about what plans are for Jacob Fatu right at the beginning of the show. Calvin says, just got news that WWE may be bringing back an old PLE. From who? What's your source? Or did you personally get news? Because if so, we'll remember, Calvin. So, who said it? Next up. Wrestling media closed ranks around a report that was proven false on what the rundown of Backlash was going to be. Pro Wrestling Unlimited do not report news, Calvin. That is not a source. So, there was a report out in the hours before Backlash stating an order of the matches on the show. It was starting with Dominic versus Penta. This did not happen. The United States Championship match started, and from what I've been told, it was always planned that they were going to start with the US title match because Jeff Cobb's debut is something that they wanted to make a big deal. That's how they wanted to open the show, and they wanted to keep it hot. They also knew that someone like Drew McIntyre likes to open a show. So that was always a planned opening match. I've seen Fightful, I've seen Wrestling Observer, and I've seen others bunkering in and saying, hey, that report wasn't wrong. WWE were wrong. And I just find it very interesting who wrestling media will bunker in and protect, and who wrestling media will try desperately with no grounds to expel. I just find it interesting. Everton says there were also reports that Punk was scheduled to work every WWE pay-per-view. That was a lie too. Yep. On Sunday upcoming, we will be doing a new wrestling receipt. So Sunday upcoming, we'll be doing a new wrestling receipt covering the last month between WrestleMania and Backlash of false reporting. And guys, you know I've got a lot to talk about. Still got plenty more to share. We'll be talking Goldberg, Alexa Bliss, we're talking Pat McAfee, and we'll be talking CM Punk as well. I want to take a moment just to celebrate how well we're doing at the minute. TikTok, over the course of Backlash, gained more than 200,000 views. More than 200,000 views on TikTok and an extra 60 or so followers. Thank you everyone who's checking out my short form work over on TikTok. We will be continuing to work in that format for the watch parties, where whenever we are having a watch party, we'll also be creating and sourcing content for TikTok. So I hope to see you at the watch parties, and I hope to see you on TikTok as well. Doing very well there. The live shows as well, the number of people who are tuning in is increasing. We're not regularly at double figures yet, but we are regularly approaching it. When it wasn't long ago, we had 1 or 2 people at most. So thank you everyone who's watching there. As regards to YouTube, we've recently had a video, the spoilers ahead of Backlash, which had a watch time, a watch length, a retention, that's the word, of more than 50%. It is my first video ever to have a retention rate above 50%. So thank you to everyone who watched, everyone who tuned in, and everyone who kept going. That almost guarantees that every video going forwards will be boosted and find a new audience because of it. If my videos are being watched for that length of time, that amount of the video, we're only going to grow from here. So let's keep going. Huge thank you to everyone who has been tuning in, everyone who's been checking out, everyone who's been donating, hitting like, saying chat rate. Huge thank you to everyone for your continued company. 2 more likes get us to 70, by the way. Over on TikTok, we have 1,900, a ridiculous number. Right, where were we? Dax says, why do people think Chad and El Grande Americano are the same person? I don't understand. To be fair, Dax, a lot of people really think El Generico and Sami Zayn are the same people. Some people, unfortunately, just don't get wrestling. Drive-by says, hi Tom, any word on Roman returning and when in the build-up to SummerSlam seems the most likely at the moment? Sean says, actor Josh Peck said he doesn't understand why WWE has press conferences after their shows. For the sake of more viral moments, they want you to share it. Declan says, I could see Lyra up on the ladder about to touch the briefcase. Becky knocks her down and wins the briefcase. I don't think either of them are likely to win the briefcase. Daz says, could we get a turn from Judgment Day sometime? Not the entire group, but from some of them. Sid says, would you like to see a real wrestling match where wrestlers can hit each other as hard as they can? No, that does not sound fun to me. That's UFC. Alex says, what do you think is happening between Alexa and Charlotte? More on that shortly. Bam Bam says, tonight's episode build up for Money in the Bank because it definitely doesn't feel like that. It won't feel like it yet, but it will feel like that once the show gets started. It is next up. But to be fair, Saturday Night Main Event comes first, so will it be? Kevin says, wait, you said Becky Lynch doesn't want to work with other top females. Makes sense, but one problem, Becky is a top female. Becky still does occasionally have to do as she's told. Robert, welcome, says, just found you on a random scroll. Welcome, hopefully you enjoy it here. By all means, ask whatever questions you have on wrestling, because that's what we do. We answer as many questions as we can about what's going on with wrestling. Fiend says, don't forget me when you're famous, Tom. I don't think that day will ever come. I really don't, but I'm very, very happy with what we've got. Very happy with it. P says, any news on Drew's apparent injury? Nothing as of yet. We did spot something happening during the watch party, but we've not had confirmation. Paul says, Matt Riddle is the MLW World Heavyweight Champion. That's a shame. Robert was not a fan of Backlash. I thought they were good moments, but I thought overall the show wasn't great. Started well. Main event was not good. Robert, I've had the channel just under 5 years now. Just under 5 years, and we're currently approaching 10,000 subscribers. Which, if there's anyone here who hasn't subscribed yet, please do. We are less than 100 people away from 10,000 subscribers. Noob says, do you think we might see some returns from Asuka and Kiana James on Raw tonight? No, I don't think WWE have ever had any plans for Kiana James. Doesn't quite work out. And as regards Asuka, I'm waiting to hear if she's fit. Fiend says, Triple H said McIntyre's banged up but going to be okay during the post-conference. Isn't that always the case with Drew McIntyre? The man is consistently on the end of a beating and feeling the pain. He really is. Welcome, Carl. Good to see you, mate. Leroy says, who do you think will take the title from Cena? Personally, I'm still leaning towards Jacob Fatu. I know he wants to give away a big moment for his final one. Everton says Jacob Fatu versus Jeff Cobb is about to cook. And Carl, as you've sent a donation, the tiny Danny Mike, I will take that opportunity to do what we've been doing at the moment. For every donation, every pound, every dollar, every gift, it's a squat. So one more squat. Add it to the collection. Thank you very kindly, Carl. Appreciate you for it. Juan says, Tom, according to WrestleTix, AEW All In Texas only has 15,000 in a 45,000 capacity arena. Good or unfortunate they can't get at least close to capacity like WWE. AEW is not WWE. I know they worked hard to be comparable at the start. They have stopped doing that. They are not comparable. Unfortunately, they're just not. And it's kind of unfair to make that comparison. Yeah, Carl, it's something we used to do on Twitch way back when. It's just a little way to say thank you for donations and gifts. It's a dumb little thing. I quite enjoy it. Robert, I go live twice a week. My schedule is just over here. Just over here. Calvin says, I'm surprised Goldberg didn't appear to say Pat from Gunter, which takes us into a lovely, enjoyable direction because Goldberg wasn't there. Goldberg did not travel to Backlash, and I'm told WWE had no plan for Goldberg to appear at Backlash. Now, we've seen plenty of rumours about, oh, he's going to be doing this, he's going to be doing that. WWE don't seem to agree just yet. There was no plan to have him there at Backlash, and the reports I read said that it would be incoming soon, and yet not yet. So I'm interested to see what they try and do with that, if they try and do anything with that. But all I can say is that Goldberg did not travel to Backlash. He was not there And WWE and Goldberg at the moment have some working out to do if there's going to be a final match. Everton says Finn versus AJ tonight. Seeds being planted for the Bullet Club reunion. Indeed, there are. And honestly, I'm quite excited about it. Should be a lot of fun. Sean says, would you say Pat versus Gunter was the worst match at Backlash? No, I'd say John Cena, Randy Orton was the worst match at Backlash. That's where we are. Fiend says, Jacob Fatu destroying Cena would pop me. Declan says, I could see Sammy as John Cena's last opponent. Kevin says, why does Becky want to work with a top female like Bayley? Makes no sense. Again, she will do it as she's told, and WWE can give her an instruction to do so. Dak says, in like 2 years, I hope someone makes a 30-minute Tom squat compilation. If you were there during the Twitch days, you'd have found a lot more than that. Calvin says, I have an uncle who does 110 squats a day, which is why his rear always gets bigger and rounder, to where it looks like it's about to explode. And thank you for sourcing Fiend. Says, according to Corey Hayes of PW Nexus, Kiana James has been brought up creatively. So that is a report that at some point someone has been mentioned, and a report that does not in any way say that she's going to appear, but if she does, certainly includes a victory lap. Calvin says, Randy is eventually going to leave Nick Aldis flat on his back with a punt. Yes, he is, and I do think that's where we're headed. Dylan says, how was Cena Randy the worst match? I thought it was arguably better than Cody Cena. Yeah, I thought it was as well. Doesn't mean it was good. I thought it was incredibly slow motion. The fans made it better than it sounded, but yeah. There was 3 ref bumps. The finish was just incredibly awkward. And yeah, it was slow as hell. Didn't like it. What little snippets have you seen, Leroy? Tell me more. Next up, we are talking Alexa Bliss. Now, I did mention on Friday, not just Alexa Bliss's return, I spoke about a feud with Chelsea Green, and that is where we stepped in. While Alexa Bliss did step in to help Zelina Vega, she has an eye on Chelsea Green as we try and move Chelsea Green away from the United States Championship. There is also, as we know, another party involved, and this is where we may be building towards a tag team. Charlotte Flair is a little devoid of friends right now, and one of the best friends she has in WWE is Alexa Bliss, meaning that the two of them could well start traveling together. Charlotte Flair's had a bit of a rough time recently, and WWE finding it difficult to help her with that. There are concerns around her mental health. So pairing her up in any combination with Alexa Bliss is something that the WWE, Flair and Alexa Bliss think would be a very good idea. This seems to have delayed any intention that the WWE had to pair up Bliss and the Wyatt Six. I can't see a world in which Charlotte Flair joins the Wyatt Six, certainly. However, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair are looking to work together rather than against each other. So Alexa Bliss and the Wyatt Six seem to be even more separate than they've ever been. But Alexa Bliss is back. Charlotte Flair is going to get essentially someone to hold on to her a little bit and keep her together. And Alexa Bliss is back firmly and in control. Everton says, will there be a Saturday night main event watch along? No, I don't tend to do those. They're not really PLEs. Also says, Alexa's about to get booed because they're not cheering Charlotte. Nobody's going to ask them to. Nobody's going to ask them to. Right, what do we got? Marcel's watching from the airplane on the way to London. Hope you have a great time, mate. Rickon says, are we getting a Bullet Club reunion with Finn and AJ soon? If so, will Finn face or AJ heel? I think that depends on the Cody. Finn says, would you agree The Rock's absence has affected John Cena's heel turn? Yeah, I think it's done serious damage to it. Serious damage. Paul says, what is the greatest wrestling match of all time? I know it's not a popular choice, but for me, the main event of WrestleMania 12 was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I really did. I also really enjoyed Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series. Mostly because it didn't overstay its welcome. John says, how many more RKOs is Nick Aldis going to take before he faces Randy Orton? Let's just say one more. Dad says, what was your favourite Sabu match? Never watched one. I've never watched one. Irish says another Wyatt's L. Damn. Rickan says, safe to say these RKOs Randy's giving Aldis will lead to a match in future. How many RKOs before Aldis snaps? At least one more. And says Charlotte turns on Alexa, then Alexa has to go back to her real family, the Wyatts. That would take a long time to play out. Declan says, why don't they put Wyatt 6 to NXT for a while? Because they're worried that would be viewed as a demotion by fans. Fans would decide that WWE have given up on the Wyatt 6, so fans would give up on the Wyatt 6 as well. Sean says, I don't know how Alexa and Charlotte as a team is going to work. One's face, the other's heel. Fans will cheer for Alexa over Charlotte. Yeah. Dax says, who do you see Uncle Howdy feuding with now? Right now? No one. Alex says, will Alexa eventually join the Wyatts? That was always the intention, to have some combination of that group and Alexa Bliss in the WWE. That was always the plan. That was always what WWE intended to do. Noob says, I get the feeling that Charlotte Flair is going to get the Firefly Funhouse treatment by Alexa Bliss. Kevin says, if wrestling fans are complaining about Charlotte and Alexa Bliss together, don't, because this is better for Charlotte and not to be in the title picture. Irish says, we already think they gave up at least NXT's on TV. KJ says, that's basically what I wasn't hoping for. Flair is going to drag Bliss down if they team. Alexa got the biggest pop at the Rumble. Leroy says, between Nia Jax and Naomi, I'm sure Jax was in the middle of the ring and she pointed her one up. Okay, so those are signs you think you're seeing. Got it. Everton said, at this point, I don't see the Wyatts returning. It was fun whilst we had them. Aaron says, are you expecting Bayley tonight? No, I'm not. I think she has a break for a little while longer and returns a little closer to SummerSlam. That's what I would personally go for. But again, that's just my opinion. Fiend says, last week Seth and Bron were outnumbered. Who will be the third man? Well, they're moving on. So at the moment, it's basically going to be 2-on-1 with CM Punk. Kevin says, sad Nikki crossing the Y6, but go blaming Triple H. Sean says, Alexa and Charlotte could still win the tag titles. Yes. And Michael says they need to just allow Charlotte to break away from all things Flair. I think, unfortunately, the damage is already done, Michael. Leroy says the first time they came to Raw and beat Chad Gable up was amazing, then they just fizzled out. I would agree with that, unfortunately. It just hasn't quite worked out for them. There was definitely a beautiful peak and then a magnificent trough. We currently have 135 people watching on YouTube, and at this point, as I get into my next piece of news, I'd like to try and push that. Our record so far this year is 156, which means we're not far from reach of that. We have 71 likes. A couple of ways you could help right now. Have a check. If you haven't hit like, make sure to do so. And if you have hit like, there are still ways to check. You can boost the chat rate through a number of different ways. The most obvious and the most lethal is just literally typing the words chat rate into the chat. Thank you everyone who's guaranteed a wonderful turnout today. Thank you for everyone who's given us a chance and is checking us out. And I appreciate all of you for doing so. Rickan says, I think Bayley cost Becky the Money in the Bank match and they have a match at SummerSlam. If so, there'll be no championship, but it will still mean more focus on Lyra Valkyria. Welcome, Autumn. Good to see you. No need to apologise. Thank you, Dax. Paul says, is Tony and Nick Khan related? No. A lot of Khans in the world, mate. A lot of Khans. Next piece of news then, as we see that push going through, is on Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee is rumoured to be riding off into the sunset. The major reason for those rumours is that he's basically saying, I'm riding off into the sunset. There are also rumours that, much like Drew McIntyre, Pat McAfee and The Rock have had a number of business meetings about the potential more high-profile focus on Pat McAfee. Working with The Rock also opens up opportunities for XFL and work like this, as well as some really high-name appearances. So The Rock and Pat McAfee, there are rumours that the two of them are working together to build a really high profile, the same as The Rock was working with Drew McIntyre as well. The Rock at this point is looking to be a business leader, a manager, and a marketing executive on top of everything else he's already doing. He's essentially building a talent agency of people in and out of WWE who can be used in ways to really get WWE over even more. Suddenly lots of questions about the Wyatts. I've just commented on that one. KJ says it always seems that WWE brings back people who've been off of TV for months after releases. Could be a coincidence, but last week we got Sheamus, Alexa and Natalya back and they were gone for months. Essentially, in the build-up to WrestleMania, they decided who they didn't need for Mania, and then after Mania, they decided who they didn't need. KJ says it's like Nick says to Triple H, use them or else. John says football starts in 3 months, Pat will leave for that. Or before, which seems likely. Rickan says, will Corey Graves come back to Raw or will it be Wade? Not sure on that one. Again, they're creating a lot of narrative as to why they need a draft. They're really pushing hard as to why they need a draft with so many people appearing and disappearing in the ways that they do. Our last piece of news is as regards CM Punk and Saudi Arabia. And yes, it's true. It's true. It's damn true. In November, around the time of Survivor Series, after the 1-year anniversary of CM Punk's return to the WWE, CM Punk signed a new deal with the WWE. And upon signing that deal, it resulted in a lot of changes that needed to be made. Firstly, he no longer had a pay per appearance clause in his contract. He no longer had a break contract, essentially allowing him to leave whenever he so choose. He just had to pay back the WWE a hell of a lot of money. There were a number of clauses in this contract, though, that did ensure that there are things he needs to do that WWE tell him to do. And yes, this includes that if the WWE tell him they need him for Saudi Arabia, he is obliged to turn up. He is going to get paid with Saudi money. But to be fair, he's been getting paid with Saudi money for 1.5 years, so let's not pretend otherwise. The clause in his contract is said to essentially state that he has to work Saudi shows if the story calls for it, meaning that there is room for interpretation and there is wiggle room as well. But what it comes down to is that if the WWE believe that the story that CM Punk is currently engaged in calls for him to work in Saudi Arabia, he is obliged to appear and wrestle in Saudi Arabia. Hell really did freeze over. Really did. Roy says as long as they keep Joe Tessitore on the main roster, I will be happy. Everton says, what story do they have for him to work Night of Champions? That will all be coming out very shortly. I don't have all the details on that one. Bear with me one sec, guys. Apparently I'm done. Rickan says, sounds like Punk is okay working Saudi if needed then. Why else would he sign that deal? Dylan says, so will Cena be at Night of Champions? That depends on his schedule. Thank you, Declan. Thank you, Rickan. We're going to wrap it up there, guys. We've been live for an hour, which is our usual rate for spoiler warning. We peaked at a tremendous 136 people watching, and also on TikTok, 12 more people watching there as well. So, as usual at this point, I'll wrap up by saying that I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.